This is episode 2 of In the Know, presented by Alpine Pursuit. More than just an apparel company. 5% of all sales donated to the BC Wildlife Federation. In this episode, I'm going to run through the Hunting and Trapping Synopsis for 2022 to 2024. We're just going to do a brief overview of all the changes for this regulation period. And at the end, we're going to touch on some exciting news on the salmon front in British Columbia. Should be a pretty straightforward episode. Stay tuned. Episode 2. Here we are. Thanks for all those that listened to the first episode and are coming back for more of me blabbing away. Thank you for everyone that reached out after the first episode dropped. Got a ton of positive feedback, which is awesome to hear. Glad you guys liked it. And yeah, today we're just going to talk about the new Hunting and Trapping Synopsis for 2022 to 2024. Just came out, I guess, probably close to 2 weeks ago now. So we're going to cruise through this. There's a couple contentious changes for this regulation period. We're not going to dive super deep into every topic. This is more so just a brief overview of everything that's changed, and I'm hoping to save a couple of these changes for future episodes to dive into a little bit deeper. So, without further ado, let's kick things off here with province-wide changes for this regulation period. Starting off with an interesting one that I have never really thought about before. First time I've seen this anyway. It is now legal to hunt with air rifles in the province of BC, as long as they're 35 caliber or larger, with the exception of bison, caribou, elk, and moose. All other big game, small game, upland birds, with not migratory birds, but upland birds, you're allowed to take with an air rifle. To be honest, I didn't know that air rifles existed that were lethal for big game animals, but I did a little bit of Google searching, and there's some pretty serious air guns out there nowadays, which I guess if that's your thing, then right on. More power to you. Now it's legal to do. Moving on, prohibition on tampering with antlers or horns. So, I mean, this is something that probably should have been introduced a long time ago as far as I'm concerned, but there it is. Now it's in writing. I guess this applies more specifically to like a spike fork season or something like that, because it's only one side that needs to meet the requirement, right? So as the law states, you could have a big old mature bull, and if it's busted off in such a way that it's got 2 points on one side, as it's written on paper, that's a legal bull. So now they've officially made it illegal to tamper with that, obviously after you shoot an animal. So you can't have idiots going in shooting a big mature bull and then driving over one side with a pickup truck to turn it into a spike fork. But next, ineligibility of a person to apply for a license, permit, or LEH if they don't comply with compulsory inspection. So, I mean, there's another thing that probably should have been introduced a while ago, but now they've officially got it on paper. It's good. And the last province-wide change, modernization of the federal migratory birds regulations and waterfowl heritage days. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know near as much as I would like to about bird hunting. However, I have this jotted down to dive into on a future episode, hopefully so. That is everything for the province-wide changes. Let's start now with Region 1, Vancouver Island. Year-round prohibition on wireless game cams across Region 1 for hunting. That is 365 days a year. If you're using it for hunting, for scouting, for really anything other than, I guess, monitoring private property, it is now illegal to do that in Region 1. And we have an expansion of the Wood Slough no hunting area. I'm not really going to get too descriptive on no hunting areas, no shooting areas, motor vehicle closure areas. I will point them out here, but it's up to you, obviously, if you're going into that area, to double check that you guys are up to date on all that stuff. So, that's it for Vancouver Island. Moving on to Region 2, Lower Mainland. The only change this year is they introduced a no shooting zone in the Squamish Valley and Chehalis Fleetwood area, except for the purpose of hunting. So that's good. Moving on, Region 3, Thompson. So there was some amendments to bighorn hunting in MU 317. So now you can only hunt mature rams in 317, whereas last synopsis period you could hunt full curl. For those of you that don't know the difference, there is a awesome illustration in the regs. Explains pretty clearly what the difference is, but essentially if you're looking from the side of the sheep, full curl, if you were to draw a straight line from the tip of the nose to the base of the lowest point of the horn, the tip of the curl must surpass that line, which is roughly around the eyeball. Now, mature ram, you're looking at the sheep from the same perspective. The tip of the curl must surpass the bridge of the nose. Now, it should be noted that this is only for bighorn. For thinhorn, the full curl definition for thinhorn is the same as the mature bighorn definition, so it's the bridge of the nose. I mean, this is good after last season. I mean, there was just a stupid amount of illegal rams confiscated by BC Conservation, and you can't really expect for that to happen in one season and nothing to come of it. So, I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I would imagine that this is a direct result of that happening last year. So just to note, you can still hunt full curl in 331 and 332. So they weren't affected by this change. That's it for Region 3. Moving on, Region 4, Kootenays. Replacement of all bighorn hunting with LEH. Now, I'm sure there's people just vibrating in their seats right now listening to this, and I'm going to leave it at that because this is one that I hope to dive deeper into on a future episode. Moving on. Closure of the bow-only cow elk season September 1st to 9th. Removal of Canada Goose no hunting zone in the Kootenay River, which is MU 43, 420, 421, and 422. Next, implementation of a December private land turkey hunt in MU 47 to 49 and 414 to 418. So check those out if you've got permission to hunt on private land somewhere in the Kootenays, or I should say somewhere in those MUs, and you want to get a turkey hunt in, you can now do that. And the last change for Region 4 is no hunting within 400 meters of Highway 3 between Loop and Alexander Bridges. No hunting, not no shooting, no hunting. Region 5, Caribou. No feeding or baiting ungulates within 200 meters of dwelling, school, or playground. They introduced a year-round black bear hunting closure in a portion of MU 59. Compulsory inspection for all bobcat and lynx across Region 5. Region-wide prohibition on operating motor vehicles above 1,700 meters unless on existing road or trail. This is a pretty common one you see across the province, and one that I'm happy to see because it pisses me off when I'm out in the backcountry and I see tracks of people that have just brapped their way through grasslands and making mud bogs and all that nonsense. So yeah, it's good. Helps protect habitat. So Next, we have expanded hunting area for sharp-tailed grouse. So if you're a grouse hunter in Region 5, go check that out. Next, we've got region-wide no close season or bag limit for raccoon. So if you're a coon hunter, give her berries. Removal of Potato Mountain motor vehicle closure and amendment to the Teseco Chico motor vehicle restriction and remove overlap where restriction already in place due to Aboriginal title lands. Basically, they fiddled around with some of the motor vehicle closures. If that applies to you, take a closer read at the regs. Region 6, Skeena. There's only one change, and it is the replacement of all moose general open seasons in the South Skeena, except MU 6.1 and 6.2 with LEH. So similar to what we're seeing in 7B, which I'm going to get to here, they're replacing open season in the South Skeena with LEH. So I touched on this a bit in episode 1. I can almost guarantee that it's going to come back up in future episodes. So I'm going to continue on. Region 7A, Amaneka. Closure of calf moose hunt in MU 716 and 723. That is the only change in 7A. 7B. Many of you already know what's coming here, but region-wide closure of all caribou hunting, region-wide amendments to moose hunting, and just to briefly explain those amendments, a portion of the region will be open for 2 separate one-day seasons, and a portion of the region will be open for a September 1st to September 30th and October 16th to October 31st season, which, as we know, excludes us from hunting in the peak rut. So they're doing their damnedest to deter us from going up there to hunt moose. I believe that the one-day seasons are to allow for local people to get up there. The expectation, I think, is that most people from the south half of the province, or, the people that are driving 18 hours or whatever to go up there, probably aren't going to go up there for one day of hunting. So it's a dirty move by the province, but that's the way they decided to handle it. And then, the rest of the seasons are all outside of the rut. So, and within these dates, within all these seasons, it's spike fork, tripalm, and 10-point antler restriction across all of it. So, with that wraps up our changes for this regulation period. So now that I've depressed everybody about the bighorn changes, the moose changes, and all that stuff, I'll try to bring you back up with some positive news regarding the salmon returns this year. There was a early season salmon update that was put out by the Watershed Watch, and they shared some really good news about the sockeye returns this year. I'll maybe paraphrase a little bit from the article they put out here, but early indicators for sockeye from Bristol Bay through Barkley Sound to the Columbia are excellent. This includes the Skeena. Sockeye returns are a tad earlier this year than years prior, which isn't a definitive indicator. However, it usually suggests that the returns will be pretty strong. The Fraser sockeye return is still a little early to tell, but so far they're expected to meet or exceed DFO forecasts. Barkley Sound is already past the peak of their return, and the forecast for the remaining return is approximately double what the DFO initially predicted for this year, so that's awesome. The Columbia River is this year's success story. The return on the Columbia is on schedule to be in the top 2 sockeye returns since 1938, and there is certainly potential there to break that record, which is, the record is 614,000 fish, and so far we're at as of the 7th of July, so this is a while ago already, we're already at 591,000 fish that have passed the Bonneville Dam, which is down near Portland, Oregon. We've already broken daily count records with over 56,000 fish passing in one day, which was on June 27th. This return includes fish destined for the Snake River, which are currently listed as endangered. Those that are unfamiliar, some of the salmon that return up the Columbia will hang a left near Brewster, Washington, and head north up the Okanagan River, eventually making their way to Osoyoos, BC. So that's why that's exciting for BC residents as well. This same salmon run, however, would have returned salmon up the Silkameen River, which eventually leads into BC too. However, the Enlow Dam is still in place on the Silkameen, which is down in Washington State, despite it being obsolete since 1986. They got their licenses pulled in 1986 because of the impact that they were having on the salmon. It was built in 1920 without the use of fish ladders, so essentially just completely stopping all salmon and steelhead returns as soon as they put it up. So they got their licenses pulled in 1986, and they've retried several times since then, and finally they've just given up, and essentially the dam is just sitting there obsolete. So destruction of the dam remains, quote, too expensive, even though the original owners are literally giving this thing away to anyone who's willing to demo it. So get rid of this dam, and we would have certainly seen hopefully seen a sockeye return to the Silkameen. It would, not only salmon, but steelhead as well would hopefully return up the Silkameen once this thing's gone. Aside from sockeye, there are several other returns that are projected to not do nearly as good this year. I'm not going to go through the whole thing here, but you've got Southeast Alaska pink salmon, stream type Fraser Chinook, both doing extremely poor. The Skeena Chinook are better than forecast. However, that's not saying much as they're still far below average. Thompson and Chilcotin steelhead are beyond endangered. There is little hope we'll see an improvement in 2022. And this year's Skeena steelhead will face extensive fishing pressure in the mixed stock commercial and food fisheries out in the saltwater. So if you want the full early season report, head over to the Watershed Watch Salmon Society, scroll down on the main page, and you will see the early season update by Greg Taylor. I also referenced some of the stuff about the Columbia. I referenced the Oregon Fish and Wildlife Service Department, something like that. They had an article out about that as well. So once again, if you have any topics you'd like to hear me ramble on about, or any feedback, good, bad, or otherwise, reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram at Alpine Pursuit, or head over to our website, alpinepursuitbc.com. Fill out the contact us form if you go the website route. And yeah, thanks for listening this week. We will catch you on the next one.